What is up, everyone? Welcome to my deep dive into the science of fat loss. Today, I'm going to break down in simple terms exactly how fat loss works and how to do it effectively. I'm going to cover a bunch of key topics from what actually causes fat loss to metabolism myths, the debate of diet quality versus quantity, why all diets work the same way, cardio versus weight training, the role of muscle, what metabolic adaptation really means, the impact of hunger and hormones, how to structure a fat loss phase, and even some common fat loss mistakes and myths to avoid. Tone today is going to be casual, fun, and evidence based, of course. So, whether you're a beginner just starting out or an experienced lifter looking for a refresher, there will be plenty of science backed insights for you. Grab a snack, a healthy snack, hopefully, sit back, and let's get into it. Okay, what actually causes fat loss? This is Energy Balance 101. So, first things first, what actually causes fat loss? Is it cutting out carbs? Is it doing high intensity workouts? Is it special fat burning foods or supplements? The truth is way more fundamental. So, fat loss boils down to energy balance, basically the calories you take in versus the calories you burn. It really is that simple, at least on paper. Think of your body like a bank account for energy. Calories in is the money you deposit through eating and drinking, and calories out is the money you spend through activity and simply being active and being alive. If you consistently spend more than you deposit, your body has to withdraw from savings, and in this case, your savings account is your body fat. So, this is often called a caloric deficit. You consume fewer calories than you burn, so your body burns stored fat to make up the difference. Fat loss cannot happen unless you're in a calorie deficit. I don't care who you are. This is a law of physics, specifically the first law of thermodynamics, which is energy conservation and conservation. Don't worry, I'm not going to get too physics heavy on you, but it's important to know no deficit, no fat loss, okay? Your body doesn't just magically burn fat just because you eat healthy or do a bunch of crunches. It needs an energy shortfall to tap into those fat stores. So at this point, you might be thinking, okay, so I just eat less than I burn. Got it. And yes, that is the gist, but the practical side is a bit more nuanced, of course. Your calories out is not just your workout, it includes all the calories your body burns in a day. Okay, the basics. Your basal metabolic rate, your BMR, the energy to keep your heart beating, lungs breathing, cells functioning, digestion, thermic effect of food, and yes, breaking down food burns some calories too. So, physical activity, not just exercise, but every movement you make, and we're going to get more into this in a second when we talk about NEAT. So, when we say burn more than you eat, it can be achieved by eating less, moving more, or ideally, a combination of both. Okay, so don't worry, eat less, move more doesn't mean you have to starve yourself and run marathons. Even a moderate calorie reduction and a bit more daily activity can do the trick in a sustainable way. Here's a key point: fat is stored energy. Body fat is basically your body's backup fuel tank. So when you eat more calories than you burn, which is a surplus, you fill that tank, meaning you store fat. When you burn more than you eat, which is a deficit, you empty the tank, meaning you burn fat. So there's no way around this balance, no matter what fancy diet or supplement someone sells. If it works by creating a calorie deficit. We will revisit that concept later when we discuss different diets, but it's worth stating up front and tattooing into your brain: calorie deficit is the cause of fat loss. A quick analogy here: imagine you have a phone with a battery. If you use the phone a lot without charging it, the battery drains. That's like a calorie deficit draining your fat stores. If you charge it more than you use it, the battery fills. That's like a calorie surplus adding fat. So no matter what apps you run or what foods you eat, This fundamental principle does not change. Of course, some apps drain your battery faster, just like some activities burn more calories, and some chargers are faster than others. Some foods fill you up differently, but the battery level ultimately depends on usage versus charging. Hopefully that analogy made sense. Now, I can almost hear some of you guys asking, but what about hormones? What about insulin or cortisol or my specific body type? Doesn't that matter? Here's the deal. Hormones and other factors do influence how your body regulates energy, hunger, and fat storage, and I will touch on those later. However, they influence energy balance. They don't overthrow it. Okay? So, for example, a hormone might make you hungrier, causing you to eat more calories, or make you a bit more sluggish, causing you to burn fewer calories, thus affecting the balance. But as far as physics is concerned, fat gain or fat loss is always accompanied by a calorie imbalance in the corresponding direction. So think of hormones as the advisors or influencers, and calories as the actual currency. The advisors, the hormones, can encourage you to spend or save, but the currency still has to add up. So here's the big takeaway from Energy Balance 101. To lose fat, you must consume fewer calories than you expend. There's no escaping that, no matter how clever a diet or exercise program is. The real challenge is how to do that consistently and healthily, and that's what the rest of the script is going to be about. So we're going to talk about ways to tip this balance in your favor and debunk some myths that often confuse people about metabolism and fat loss. Speaking of which, let's talk about one major factor in calories out that people often overlook, something called NEAT, N-E-A-T, and why some folks seem to burn calories more easily than others. NEAT and metabolism myths. So you probably heard people say things like, I just have a slow metabolism, or my friend can eat anything and never gain weight, it's unfair. Often, what they're really observing comes down to activity levels, specifically NEAT. NEAT stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is a mouthful that basically just means all the calories you burn by doing anything that is not formal exercise. So this is things like walking around the house, doing yard work, cleaning, fidgeting, typing, gesturing when you talk, or even just maintaining posture. It's all the movement we do in daily life that is not intentional exercise. So, why does NEAT matter? Because it can vary a lot from person to person and can significantly impact your daily calorie burn. Some people are naturally fidgety, always tapping their foot, pacing on the phone, finding excuses to get up and move. They might burn hundreds more calories per day through NEAT compared to someone who is more sedentary and chill. In fact, research has shown that when some individuals overeat, they automatically ramp up their NEAT. They unconsciously move more, almost as if their body is trying to burn off the extra energy. Other people, when they overeat, don't increase NEAT much at all. Their bodies just happily store the surplus. That difference can explain why two people might eat the same excess calories, but one gains weight rapidly and the other gains much more slowly. So here's a cool and slightly crazy example. In one study, volunteers were overfed about 1,000 extra calories a day. Some people in the study responded by increasing their daily activity enough to burn almost 700 of those extra calories through NEAT, essentially buffering most of the surplus just by moving around, probably without even realizing. Others in the study barely changed their activity and thus stored a lot more of those calories as fat. The change in NEAT ranged from almost 0 to 700 calories difference per day between individuals. That is huge. It's like one person's body said, whoa, okay, we've got lots of energy, let's fidget and tidy the house and bounce around, while another person's body said, extra energy, let's just sit and chill and watch Netflix. Now, NEAT isn't something entirely within your conscious control. A lot of it is subconscious behavior, but you can influence it. So, for instance, modern life has engineered a lot of NEAT out of our days. Think about long hours sitting at a desk or relaxing on the couch. So by intentionally adding more daily movement, you can boost your NEAT. This could be simple habits like taking the stairs, walking or biking for short errands instead of driving, doing some stretching or pacing during phone calls, or having a step count goal each day. These may not feel like exercise, but they absolutely do contribute to your calorie burn. Over weeks and months, a higher NEAT can mean significantly more fat loss without necessarily eating less. It's like a hidden lever you can pull to tilt energy balance in your favor. Okay, so let's tackle some metabolism myths that tie into this. First, I have a slow metabolism, that's why I can't lose weight. Generally, unless you have a diagnosed medical condition like severe hypothyroidism, which is relatively uncommon, your metabolism is probably not significantly slower or faster than average for your body size. It is true that individuals have slight differences in resting metabolic rate, which is the calories you burn at rest, but for people of the same age, sex, and body composition, BMR, basal metabolic rate, doesn't vary widely. The big differences between people often come from NEAT and overall activity. So people who think they have a slow metabolism might actually just have lower daily activity. So maybe a desk job, long periods of sitting, low spontaneous movement, or may have lost some muscle mass, which does lower calorie needs a bit. So on the flip side, those people with fast metabolisms are often just more active day to day, even if they don't realize how much those little movements add up. So they might also be larger or have more muscle, which naturally burns more calories. So before blaming your metabolism, take an honest look at your daily habits. How much are you moving? Okay. Starvation mode will stop me from losing fat if I eat too little. Okay, the infamous starvation mode. This is often misunderstood, so let's be clear. If you are truly eating way below your needs, you will lose weight. A dramatic example is that nobody in a famine or in long-term starvation stays fat. The body simply cannot conjure calories out of thin air. What people call starvation mode is actually something real, but less magical. It is adaptive thermogenesis, which I'm going to discuss more in the metabolic adaptation section. In short, when you diet hard, your body does try to conserve energy. Your metabolism does slow down a bit, and you might stop losing weight at the same rate. But this does not mean you can eat nothing and still lose weight. If someone believes they're eating like 1,200 calories and not losing weight, often it's that their body has subconsciously reduced output, so NEAT drops, etc. And or, more likely, they are underestimating how much they actually eat. Very common occurrence, no shame. We're all notoriously bad at estimating calories. So true starvation mode, in the mythical sense of eating super low calories but somehow not losing any fat at all or even gaining weight, is not a real thing. Your body, again, cannot violate thermodynamics. It can only adjust its burn rate and make you feel crummy to encourage you to eat. I'm going to bust more of that later, but keep in mind, a slow metabolism usually isn't an immutable curse. It's often about lifestyle and body changes. Okay, metabolism is entirely genetic. There's nothing I can do. The next myth. Genetics do play a role in body weight tendencies. Some people are predisposed to have more active or different hunger levels or store fat more readily, but you absolutely can influence your metabolism through behavior. Building muscle through resistance training will increase your resting metabolism over time. Increasing your daily activity increases how much you burn. Even small things like caffeine can temporarily boost metabolism, though not enough to fix a bad diet. So while you might not have the same calorie burn as someone else naturally, you can improve your own by focusing on muscle and movement. Next myth, older people gain weight because metabolism slows dramatically with age. Great one. It is true that metabolic rate decreases slightly with age, but a big reason many people gain weight as they get older is actually lifestyle changes. We tend to become less active, meaning less NEAT, and often lose muscle mass if we're not training. Muscle mass burns calories. Aging itself has some effect. After about age 30 or so, BMR can dip a little each decade, but it's not usually drastic by itself. The good news is, by staying active and doing some resistance training, you can counter a lot of that age-related slowdown. In fact, there are 60-year-olds out there with metabolisms like some 30-year-olds because they maintain muscle and movement. So the big points from this section: NEAT is a major factor in how many calories you burn daily. Embrace movement in daily life. It can significantly aid fat loss. Do not blame a broken metabolism too quickly. It's rare for someone's metabolism to be so unique that it defies the usual rules. Usually it's about how much you're eating and moving, even if you don't realize it. Many metabolism myths are just that, myths. So instead of magical thinking, focus on controllable factors: diet, activity, muscle mass, and healthy habits. So before you despair or think, oh man, I must be a low-NEAT couch potato, I'm doomed, remember, knowledge is power. By realizing NEAT's importance, you can consciously incorporate more movement and not rely solely on willpower to eat less. A lot of small actions like taking a walk after dinner, parking a bit further away, doing a quick dance when your favorite song comes on, these can all add up to hundreds of calories over the day. And that can be the difference between plateauing and steadily losing fat over the months. Okay, so now that I've covered the importance of movement and I have debunked some metabolism excuses, it's time to shift gears to the other side of the energy equation: the food we eat. Doesn't matter what you eat or just how much. This brings us to diet quality versus quantity. Okay, diet quality versus quantity. Does what you eat matter for fat loss? So by now, I've hopefully hammered home that a calorie deficit is king for fat loss. So you might ask, if calories are all that matters, can't I just eat cake and french fries as long as I stay under my calorie limit? Meanwhile, another voice, maybe from the internet or a well-meaning friend, might be telling you, no, it's not just calories, it's the quality of those calories. You have to eat clean, organic kale smoothies and wild-caught salmon, and avoid junk if you want to lose fat. So which is it, quality or quantity? The somewhat unsatisfying but truthful answer is both are important in different ways. Okay, let's break it down. So quantity, which is calories. For pure fat loss outcomes, quantity is the driver. If you eat fewer calories than you burn, you will lose weight, even if those calories aren't the healthiest choices. There have been wild experiments to prove this point. For example, a professor famously went on a convenience store diet, eating Twinkies, snack cakes, etc., but kept his calories strictly low and lost weight. Sounds great, right? Not so fast. He lost weight, yes, but that doesn't mean it was optimal for his health or how he felt. This just illustrates that you could technically lose fat eating junk food if you manage to eat junk food in a calorie deficit. But that's like winning a battle and losing the war health-wise. Quality, nutrients, and food type. The quality of your diet plays a huge role in how easy or hard it is for you to maintain that calorie deficit, and in what happens to your body beyond the scale. High quality foods tend to be more filling per calorie. Try eating 500 calories of broccoli, Jesus, or 500 calories versus ice cream. One is going to stuff you to the brim. I could not imagine eating 500 calories of broccoli. And the other I could eat in 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and still be hungry. So whole foods like vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, whole grains, legumes, these are typically higher in volume, fiber, or protein and keep you satiated. They also provide vital nutrients, vitamins and minerals that keep your body functioning well, which can indirectly support better fat loss. For example, adequate iron and B vitamins to keep energy levels up, enough calcium and vitamin D for health, etc. So on the flip side, low quality foods, think of candy, sugary drinks, chips, etc., are often designed to be easy to overeat. They pack a lot of calories in a small package and don't trigger fullness the same way. So if you try to diet on these foods, you're going to be hungry, cranky, and undernourished, and your workouts are going to be terrible. So the secret sauce is combining quality and quantity. Manage your calorie quantity and make the calories you do eat as nutritious and filling as possible. In practice, this means something like emphasizing protein, lean meats, fish, eggs, dairy, or plant proteins like beans and tofu. Protein is your best friend for fat loss. It's satiating and it helps preserve your muscle while you lose fat. Next up, loading up on vegetables and fruits. Some fruits. They are high in fiber, high in volume, low in calories, and high in micronutrients. You can eat a ton of veggies for very few calories, which is awesome when you're dieting because you get to feel full without breaking the calorie bank. Plus, all that fiber helps with satiety and, let's be honest, keeps you regular, which can be a minor issue on some diets. Including healthy fats in moderation, like nuts, olive oil, avocado, etc. Fat has more than twice the calories per gram as protein or carbs. So, you do have to watch portions, but completely cutting fat is a bad idea. Dietary fat is important for hormone production. So, for example, your body needs some fat to make testosterone, estrogen, etc. It's also important for absorbing fat-soluble vitamins, and it makes food taste good. A diet with zero fat is miserable and unhealthy. However, because fat calories add up quickly, focus on getting your fats from nutrient-rich sources and be mindful of amounts. So like a handful of nuts, a couple teaspoons of olive oil, etc. Rather than downing a whole jar of peanut butter. Ah, yes, peanut butter. As delicious as it is, maybe leave the peanut butter in the store. So choosing fiber-rich carbs like whole grains, legumes, fruits, instead of heaps of sugar and refined starch can be very helpful. Not that you can't have any sugar. You can fit a treat in, but the majority of your carbs should ideally come from quality sources that keep you full and provide nutrients. Another key aspect of diet quality is how it affects your cravings and energy levels. If you have ever tried to eat nothing but sugary cereal for breakfast versus having eggs and whole grain toast, or eggs and oats, or even better, eggs and potatoes, you know the difference. The sugary cereal might have the same calories, but 2 hours later, you're ravenous, shaky, hungry. The high protein, higher fiber breakfast keeps you steady and full much longer. Diet quality can make adherence to your calorie goals much easier because you're not constantly battling hunger or energy crashes. Okay, now let's address an important nuance: flexibility. While I certainly encourage mostly nutrient-dense foods, you don't have to eat perfectly clean 100% of the time. In fact, being too rigid can backfire for some people. If you love chocolate, completely banning it might just lead to a binge later. It is often, for some people, moderators we call them, better to allow yourself a reasonable portion of a treat here and there, fitting it into your calorie budget so you feel satisfied and not deprived. This is sometimes called the 80-20 rule. Aim for about 80% of your calories from whole nutritious foods, and 20% can be more fun or indulgent foods. That way you still make progress but also enjoy life. For example, you might have mostly lean protein, veggies, and whole grains all day and then have a small dessert at night. Or include a couple of cookies or a little ice cream a few times a week, as long as it doesn't blow your total calories. Quality versus quantity. Here's the bottom line. Quantity, calories, determines whether you lose weight, gain, or maintain. Quality determines how you feel during the process, how sustainable, and what the composition of that weight loss is. So we want to lose fat but keep muscle, obviously, and quality nutrition helps with that. For the best fat loss outcomes, do both. Control your calories and eat mostly high quality foods. So if you only focus on calories and ignore nutrition, you might lose weight, but you will feel terrible. You'll have no energy to work out. You'll possibly lose more muscle, and you will harm your health. If you only focus on eating healthy foods but ignore quantity, you might not lose any weight. Yes, you can overeat even healthy foods. Yes, it's possible to gain weight eating too many organic avocados, certainly. So it's not an either or. It's not quality versus quantity. It is a partnership. So Let's sum up this section with an analogy. Imagine losing fat is like a road trip. Calories are the fuel in the tank. You can't get to the destination, which is fat loss, without being in a deficit, which is burning fuel. Diet quality is like the quality of the fuel and the condition of the car. High quality fuel and good maintenance will make the trip smoother, more efficient, and more enjoyable, whereas low quality fuel might still get you there, but with a lot more sputtering, stalling, and discomfort. We want a smooth ride. Okay, so now that you understand that you need to eat less energy than you burn, and ideally make those calories count with good nutrition, you might be wondering about all those fad diets out there. Keto, vegan, paleo, intermittent fasting, carnivore, juice cleanses, and so on, so forth. They each claim to have the secret sauce, but do they? Let's talk about why all diets actually work the same way under the hood. Okay, why all diets work the same, mechanism-wise. If you've been around the diet industry or even just browsed YouTube or Instagram, you've probably seen a dizzying array of diet approaches, each with zealous supporters. Low carb or keto, cut out carbs and you'll magically burn more fat because insulin stays low. Low fat, fat has a lot of calories, cut it out and you'll lose weight easily and improve your heart health. Intermittent fasting, it's not just what you eat, it's when you eat. If you only eat in an 8-hour window or do alternate fasting, etc., the pounds will melt off. There's paleo. Eat like a caveman, only meats, veggies, fruits, nuts, no processed stuff or grains, and your body will shed fat because that's our natural diet. Vegan or plant-based for weight loss. Avoid animal foods, eat only plants, you'll naturally consume fewer calories and be healthier. Carnivore, do the opposite, only meat. Cut out carbs and plants completely and you'll lose fat and possibly friends at dinner parties. Meal replacements, detoxes, cleanse, drink this special shake or juice for X days and flush the fat away, and the list goes on and on and on. There are plenty of these diets out there, but here is the secret that the savvy coaches and scientists know. Any diet that works for fat loss works by putting you in a calorie deficit, one way or another. There's no special magic beyond that. They just differ in how they attempt to get you to that deficit or improve adherence to it. So let's break down a few popular ones to illustrate this. We're going to start with keto or low carb. So by cutting out most carbs, you eliminate a huge swath of calorie-dense foods. So bread, pasta, rice, sweets, sugary drinks, a lot of snacks. People end up eating mainly meat, eggs, vegetables, nuts, etc., which often are more filling per calorie and higher in protein and fat, which have appetite-suppressing effects for many. They also see a quick drop on the scale initially, which is mostly water weight from using up stored glycogen. So that quick drop on the scale, it can be very motivating early on, providing you with early wins. By virtue of limited food choices and higher satiety, many folks naturally eat fewer calories on keto without counting them. Result is a calorie deficit, fat loss. There is nothing inherently magic about low carbs or no carbs. It's just an indirect way to cut calories. And by the way, despite what some people say, you can gain fat on keto if you overeat calories. If you drink butter all the time, put butter in your coffee, eat 3,000 calories of bacon and cheese, that will still certainly put you in a calorie surplus. Low insulin doesn't mean you can't store fat. Fat can be stored directly too. Okay, next one is low fat. Similar story, different nutrient. By cutting fat, you automatically remove or reduce a lot of high-calorie foods. So fried foods, butter oils, high-fat processed snacks, full-fat dairy, fatty meats. If you go extreme low-fat, you are basically eating things like lean protein, vegetables, fruits, grains, which can be filling and less calorie-dense. However, you might be hungrier if protein isn't high because fat also provides satiety. This diet was big in the 90s and many people found it hard to adhere due to hunger. Still, if you manage it, you've reduced your calorie intake. Result here is calorie deficit, fat loss. Next one, intermittent fasting. By restricting the window in which you eat, so say only between noon and 8 p.m., many people find they naturally eat less. If you skip breakfast, that might cut out 300 to 500 calories you would have eaten. Or if you do alternate day fasting, you're essentially creating a big deficit on fast days. There is no fat loss magic in the timing itself. It's not like your body flips a special fat burning switch only after 16 hours of fasting. Some minor hormonal fluctuations happen, yes, but nothing that overrides calories in versus calories out. The magic is simply that it can help some people adhere to eating less overall. Some people like eating big meals. So if they compress their meals into 8 hours, they feel more satisfied each meal and still end up at, say, 1,800 calories instead of nibbling over 16 hours and accidentally eating 2,500. Result when it works is calorie deficit and fat loss. If someone does intermittent fasting, but in their 8-hour window they overeat like crazy, they won't lose weight. All right, next one, paleo. By eliminating processed foods, grains, dairy, and legumes, you basically force yourself to eat just lean meats, fruits, veggies, and nuts. That is generally a high protein, high fiber diet. And it's pretty hard to overeat chicken breast and broccoli. You will get full very fast. So paleo also cuts out most desserts and junk by definition. Calorie deficit often naturally happens because you're limited to whole foods that are filling. It is possible to overeat nuts, definitely, and some fatty meats, so you still have to watch your portions a bit. The mechanism of this, you guessed it, fewer calories, fat loss. Vegan is next. Vegan for weight loss. If someone goes from eating a typical diet to a whole foods plant-based diet, they often increase fiber and bulk, reduce calorie density, and sometimes reduce total calories, especially if they cut out things like cheese, meat, and processed snacks. However, vegan diets aren't automatically low calorie. Think about nut butters and oils and tasty vegan cookies. But when done with lots of veggies and legumes, a vegan diet can create a calorie deficit. Again, the ones who lose fat are those who end up eating fewer calories. Are you seeing a theme here? Next, meal replacement shakes and detox cleanses. These are often very low calorie regimens in disguise. Have 2 shakes and a small dinner. Well, of course you'll lose weight if that totals to 1,000 calories a day. But it's not the magical shake ingredients or the toxins being flushed. By the way, your kidneys and liver detox you just fine. The cleansed juices are basically laxatives or diuretics. So it's just that you stopped eating real food and essentially semi-starved for a week. Not recommended. And by the way, you'll lose mostly water and some muscle, maybe a little bit of fat, and you'll be super hungry, and then you'll probably rebound. So I think you see the pattern. All effective diets create a calorie deficit in one way or another. They just have different rules and gimmicks to get you there. Some restrict what you can eat, certain food groups, which can lead to eating less almost by accident. Some restrict when you can eat, which can also lead to eating less. Some give you predefined meals or shakes, controlling the portions for you. Now, here's a key point. The best diet is the one you can stick to long term. Since all roads lead to Rome, which is a calorie deficit. Pick the road that you enjoy traveling on, or at least can tolerate without misery. If you love carbs and your attempt to do keto made you want to murder someone for a piece of bread, maybe keto is not for you. If you hate counting calories but find that just eating paleo-style clean foods naturally keeps you in check, do that. If you enjoy structure and not thinking about food all day, maybe a couple meal replacement shakes and a sensible dinner works for you. Or if you love breakfast and small meals, intermittent fasting would not be for you. Or vice versa. If you hate eating in the morning, maybe an 18-6 fasting approach feels easy and you hardly notice it. Also consider what fits your lifestyle and your ethics. If you're a vegetarian for ethical reasons, a carnivore diet is obviously off the table. If you have big family dinners in the evening, a strict 7 p.m. cutoff for eating might be impractical. Your diet should mold to you, not the other way around. as long as it respects the calorie principle. Another thing, all diets have the same secret sauce, which is, drumroll please, calorie deficit. But they differ in how they affect your nutrition and muscle. For example, a high protein diet, like many low carb diets inherently are, is great for muscle retention. A diet that cuts out all animal protein might risk being lower in protein, so you'd need to be mindful to get enough from plants to preserve muscle. A diet that's too low in fat could mess with your hormones over time. So, when choosing a diet style, don't just look at weight loss, think about health and muscle too. Ideally, whichever way you prefer to eat, ensure you're getting enough protein, some healthy fats, plenty of micronutrients, and fiber. You can do that within almost any framework. Yes, even keto can have fiber through vegetables and some nuts. Vegan can have protein through beans and tofu, etc. There is no one magic food that burns fat. Not grapefruit, not apple cider vinegar, not celery juice. These might be fine foods, but they don't bypass energy balance. Okay, so it might be a bit disappointing to hear that there is no magic diet because, let's face it, magic sounds fun and effort-free. But the empowering part of this truth is that you have options. You aren't forced to do the diet your friend did or the one that your favorite celebrity swears by. You can choose the approach that best fits your preferences and life as long as you maintain that calorie deficit consistently. So, whether you go low carb, low fat, balanced macros, intermittent fasting, or just regular old calorie counting with no food restrictions, which is actually what many evidence-based folks do, and that's what I do, tracking macros. Whether you eat anything in moderation, again, track your calories or macros, the end goal is the same. All diets are tools to help you eat fewer calories than you burn. They are like different styles of cuisines. Italian, Japanese, Mexican, they can all fill you up just with different flavors. The flavor of your diet should be something you enjoy enough to stick with for months and hopefully a sustainable version for life, because maintaining weight loss is a lifelong thing. So, now that I've demystified diets, in the next video in this series, we're going to talk about exercise, okay? So, particularly, there's an age-old question in the fat loss world. Should I focus on cardio or do weight training? What burns fat better? We are going to dive into cardio versus resistance training and how each contributes to your fat loss journey next time. Thank you for joining me, and I wish you all the best in your weight loss and health and fitness journey. See you next time.